I think Donald Trump drew the balls once.
Whatever happened to him?
They have Urian Timber on hand to foul the goalkeeper and score.
Like a sushi restaurant, rice was everywhere.
Did I just see Manuel Neuer walk past the living room window?
Seeing people who are brilliant at what they do make really terrible mistakes. If he keeps losing games like this, he will at some point lose his job. Mo Salah has been hopeless for some time. Isak was being touted as the best striker in Europe. I mean, he's not even the best striker in the Liverpool squad.
Max, you're sounding like Ange.
That's who we are, mate.
Tottenham's best player in a game against PSG was a PSG player. It's the most games gone fixture list we've ever seen.
I think I might be a complete moron. I think I agree with Max.
This is the self-immolation derby.
Furious debate before the episode about what we begin with. But we're going to start at the Emirates since Arsenal are top of the league. But it's difficult to choose between that and Liverpool, I guess, and maybe even Tottenham. But Arsenal 3, Bayern Munich 1. Marissa says, at what point do we accept that Arsenal are going to win it all? So two sides with 100% records so far in the Champions League. Probably the two best in the competition so far. And, you know, this could be the final in however many months' time. I think it's been, Nicky, long enough since we asked you something like, are they the best team ever? Or like, how good is this? Or anyway, give us some perspective, because it must be great right now. The last few days have been brilliant as an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, all jokes aside about the fact that people get a tiny bit ahead of themselves, and bear in mind that the best team in Europe by a mile last season was PSG, and they barely got through the group stage. You don't know who's going to be playing the best football at the end of the season just because a team's playing well in November. But as a fan, as well as obviously someone who's covers football, but someone who has been an Arsenal fan since I was a kid, like you really struggle to remember a moment when it felt as good as this. Like, it feels like it's been a while since it's felt anything close to as good as this. And specifically, there's something about this matchup with Bayern Munich, I think, that feels like a confirmation or a validation, perhaps a better word, of what's been going on recently. Because this is the team that, and I know that we're now talking 7 years ago, 8 years ago, but in 2017 beat us 5-1 twice. This was a team that was always just that insurmountable obstacle for Arsenal to come into the cup and have this sort of performance against a team that really is playing, Declan Rice said it at full time, the best football in Europe. Bayern Munich plays some really nice football. They played it again last night. They played really good football. It feels like, not that it necessarily needed rubber stamping, but it does feel like a rubber stamp on, my goodness, this team isn't just good. It's really, really good.
Barry, you know, the goals come from everywhere. They've got so many, you know, different players who've now scored sort of 4, 5, 6 goals. The set piece delivery of Saka and Rice. I know we've talked about it before. It's it's insane how accurate it is. It's just sort of like these arrows like firing in at Manuel Neuer. We'll get onto him going for a jog in a bit, because that's clearly the greatest moment of the game. But, you know, short of just saying Arsenal are good again, I you know, does this confirm things for you, Barry? Does it make you think, you know, they really could run away with things?
I think it's a possibility, but we know how quickly teams can inexplicably collapse. We know, I mean, people talk about their strength and depth. I think potentially a serious injury to Declan Rice could be potentially ruinous to their season. The deliveries, not quite arrows. Arrows tend to go straight, but yeah, Bukayo Saka's delivery for the opener was absolutely perfect. And in the absence of Gabriel, they have Urian Timber on hand to foul the goalkeeper and score. Which is handy. Another example of their strength and depth. I'm being slightly facetious there, but it was a really good goal. Yeah, they're a terrific team. That second half performance yesterday, I mean, they could have gone 2-1 down. They probably should have. When Jonathan Tah sent Stanisic away, and he shot when he should have squared the ball. I think he had 3 Kane, Elise, and Leonard Carl all waiting. What a player he looks, by the way, Leonard Carl, only 17. But Yeah, a brilliant second half performance from Arsenal. The Arsenal friends of my acquaintance, and there are quite a few of them, they're all being very tight-lipped. But I can tell they think this is the season, but they're saying nothing. They're keeping their mouths shut for now.
I don't blame them. Look, yesterday, Archie, we got a bit of perspective on how good is this Barcelona team at Chelsea be, and Nicky's already alluded to it, but it is worth confirming. It is not easy to beat Bayern Munich, is it?
It's not. Just a few things to add. I remember when Bayern beat Arsenal the last time in the Champions League, and they'd been thinking before about signing Declan Rice, and they felt vindicated by the performance that Rice didn't put in there. I wonder if the performance that Declan Rice put in last night was something of a response to that. Because, like a sushi restaurant, Rice was everywhere. It was absolutely amazing how he would go for a 30-yard run forward, and then he lost the ball, but he's then sprinting back at the same velocity. And that moment where he did exactly that and dispossessed Harry Kane with a slide tackle gives it the big one to the fans. I thought he was superb. And the truth is, Arsenal were a cut above anything that Bayern have faced this season. The fact that they didn't have Luis Diaz was, I think, the tipping point here. That compared to the PSG game in that first half where they dominated PSG, they certainly lacked a physical quality to them last night. That Lennart Karl has been able to come in, 17 years old, and be as imposing. That finish is really not easy, even if you're right in front of goal. And it was very much I'm him energy from him. And I'd also add, in Germany, you had Michael Ballack on co-commentary, which is interesting because Michael Ballack is Lennart Karl's agent. So it felt quite weird in terms of he was being quite withdrawn about his analysis, sometimes being like, well, he's a very good player and he's got a lot. And you're like, well, it feels like there's something more that you want to say here. But yeah, look, from a Bayern perspective, this is the first defeat of the season, as you've mentioned. They've been playing really well this season, 18-game unbeaten run over. They've done this without Jamal Musiala and Alphonso Davies out injured, a thinner squad than before. But I think by looking across at Arsenal and seeing the strength and depth that they have, the fact that you can bring on Calafiori and a minute later he's storming down the touchline to provide that assist for Noni Madueke, I think, they will store this defeat, and I think it will be intriguing to see what happens come March, April, because this Bayern side under Vincent Kompany have shown their capabilities in learning.
I thought it was really interesting you say store this defeat, Archie, like the response of Harry Kane right afterwards being like, well, we'll see. Basically, pretty much said, we'll see you again in the spring, is more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but it basically was, well, we're going to be at the later end of this tournament. We're expecting you to be there, so see you there. That's kind of how it came across. And what I loved about this game, actually, all around, I mean, you talked about Declan Rice being everywhere, and he was. Rice was absolutely monstrous, and I can't say enough about how good of a footballer he's become. I thought Zubimendi was great in the Arsenal midfield as well. But I do think that it's worth saying, talking about players being everywhere, especially when you consider that he is a centre forward. Harry Kane was putting himself about last night. Harry Kane was not shy in getting about the pitch. And what I was just getting to with this game was, this game sort of didn't matter because both of these teams could afford to lose and still more than likely go through in the top 8, go through to the last 16, not have to do that extra playoff round in the knockouts. And yet, neither of them took it lightly. Arsenal, I think, made 2 changes from the game against Tottenham, even though they've got Chelsea coming up next. I don't know how many changes Bayern Munich made, but this was basically full strength teams going at it at full strength. And I think that was, to some degree, a reflection of where both these teams are in their development and their identity. Is they actually really wanted this chance to put themselves up against someone who they see as a direct rival to win this thing, and who they want to say, okay, let's get the measure of you. So I think there was a really, as a spectator, enjoyable, but also maybe as a psychologist, interesting level of intensity to this game, given that you could say it didn't matter that much.
I mean, we mentioned Cucurella yesterday being possibly the best left back in the Premier League / Europe / the world. I mean, Calafiori is up there because he is some player, isn't he? And that ball for Madueke was great. And a lovely moment for Madueke. And then we get to the Martinelli goal. Sean says, did I just see Manuel Neuer walk past the living room window? Honestly, Barry, when I first saw it, because you don't see, the camera, you don't know Neuer's coming. I thought it was a pitch invader. I was like, I genuinely was like, who's that there? And we know Neuer comes out, and it's a wonderful touch from Martinelli, but it was so funny.
Yeah, for anyone who didn't see it, Mikel Arteta had the ball on the right wing while Bayern were attacking. He kind of ran into a blind alley, was dispossessed, and his former Palace teammate, Eberechi Eze, sort of launched the ball over the top for Martinelli to chase. And Martinelli set off, and about, 5 yards inside the Bayern Munich half, he met Neuer sprinting in the other direction. And Martinelli, I presume it was intentional, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Brilliant first touch off his knee to take the ball and past Neuer and take Neuer out of the game. And then he had the fairly straightforward task of slotting the ball into an empty net from about 25 yards out. But Neuer, massive rush of blood to the head. I presume he thought he could get to the ball before Martinelli. He didn't. But I think his head was gone. He was at fault for the first goal. We know how good Arsenal are at corners, but he did come and flap, and having got a little nudge from Timber, who ended up glancing the header in, Arsenal could have scored from another couple of corners. I think, was it Marino headed one, a very pretty straightforward chance down and wide. And Neuer pulled off a couple of, what on the face of it looked good saves. I would say a couple of them were lucky, whereas he was all over the place and the ball just happened to hit him. So it wasn't a particularly good game from him, but the game was more or less lost by that stage anyway. But it was funny. I love seeing people who are brilliant at what they do make really terrible mistakes, because it just makes me feel better about myself.
The thing is, that rush of blood to the head is a regular occurrence, except that most of the time for Manuel Neuer in his career, it's come off. And as someone who watches Bayern live most weeks, the thing that you don't see on the usual camera one shot is that at every corner that Bayern get, Manuel Neuer does this thing almost like a fox, kind of marking his territory, where he'll just come and sneak over the halfway line.
There's a shake on the goal line.
That's what I was going to say.
It seems like that to me mentally, as if to say, like, just to let you know, I'm here. What an image I've given Barry there.
Yeah. That would be tremendous.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to take it there, but Barry does know about shitting in Munich. Let's be real, right?
It wouldn't be the first act by a German goalkeeper on the pitch, given that Jens Lehmann famously once relieved himself next to his goal post. What I would say, in a more serious tone, is that respect to Arsenal for the speed of that turnover. I counted it. It was 8 touches in 12 seconds from the ball leaving the Arsenal penalty area to the ball going across the line from Martinelli. But there is a little thing for Bayern that's the third game running that Manuel Neuer has made a rick, and 6 of the last 9 goals they've conceded have been from set pieces. They are still miles clear in the Bundesliga. No one is going to catch them. But this is, I think, is something that they're going to have to work on, and they will, because they are very thorough with the way that they work the Vincent Company mantra has always been, when we're great, let's not get too high. When we lose, let's not get too low. And they sounded pretty even after it as well. But as Barry says, when you see somebody as good as Manuel Neuer making mistakes like that, the thing is, it empowers a lot of people to think, wow, that's okay. I can get away with that. And the thing is, I think the true show of Manuel Neuer's greatness is that after that goal, you see him race out again, but he doesn't care. And he does a magnificent pass down the left. And that shows you the level that he still has, even if he is not at his zenith right now. Zenith.
Yeah, worth saying. He hasn't signed for Zenit yet. I mean, that'll be a moment. But Arsenal have never lost a game. Arsenal have never lost a game when Martinelli's found the back of the net. He's scored in 50 games. They've won 41 and drawn 9. That is from Opta. That's an interesting statistic.
Arsenal look great now. I think about Inter last season, who went for the quadruple, overexerted themselves, won nothing at all. So I think that's worth saying. But the reason actually that you feel like this Arsenal team might weather it is because Martinelli, who is nothing like a first choice player, is still that sort of effectiveness of player, because you can lose Trossard and suddenly Madueke is back and scoring his first goal. I know it's not an original point, but I do think that is what makes this group feel different. It's just the depth of those options is really extraordinary.
To Anfield then, and look, we've said before, and we will keep saying that everything surrounding Liverpool needs to be contextualised with the impact of Diogo Jota's death, and they get a pass from me, whatever happens. But 4-1 defeat at home to PSV. They've lost 5 of their last 7 in all competitions, 9 in 12. In that run of the 7, they've conceded 3 or more 5 times. This was their biggest ever home defeat in the Champions League. Tuchel says if a Liverpool fan decided not to cut his hair till Liverpool won 5 games in a row, who would get a haircut first? Them or the Man United fan? And, Slot is being asked questions, Barry, about his future. He said, I feel safe, I'm okay, I've got a lot of support from above. We're getting questions about, would Inzaghi come to Liverpool? Is that a good idea? I saw guys from the Anfield Rap saying, his time is up. And it's extraordinary when you think about it.
I'm surprised to hear the lads from the Anfield Rap think his time is up. I suppose the difference is I'm not a Liverpool fan, so it doesn't matter to me that Liverpool are on this bonkers losing streak, whereas it does very much matter to people who are invested in the club. And it's a terrible run. I have no idea what is going on in the minds of Slot's employers, so it would be ludicrous for me to say whether I think he'll get fired or not. But if he keeps losing games like this, he will at some point lose his job. And I think I'm surprised by how little he seems to be doing to change things. There were some shocking performances from various Liverpool players last night. But Mo Salah, for example, was hopeless and has been hopeless for some time, but he seems to be undroppable. See also Ibrahima Konate. Virgil van Dijk is not playing well. Why does Milos Kerkez keep getting sent out into a hail of bullets when he's clearly having a terrible time of it? His confidence has bottomed out. Curtis Jones gave several interviews after the game last night. In one, he described Liverpool as being in the shit. In another, he was saying that Liverpool players need to start smashing into tackles and make people afraid of coming to Anfield again because teams are no longer afraid. Archie sent the clip around this morning, and one of the comments underneath it was that Curtis Jones sounds like someone who isn't a Scouser trying to do a Scouse accent, which I thought was quite funny. But I wasn't even sure if the interview was real or not. But it was.
Me neither, yeah.
It was a real interview. But Curtis Jones was horribly at fault for one of the goals. Mo Salah was horribly at fault for PSV's second goal, where Mario Jr. just sauntered past him with the ball, and Salah made no effort to chase him. The only Liverpool player I can see who's playing anyway decently is Dominic Szoboszlai. And then last night as well, Alexander Isak didn't start. Like, he can't get in that team. That's unbelievable what a disappointment he's been so far. Newcastle fans must be absolutely laughing their heads off at what has become of their former star striker. During the summer, Isak was being touted as the best striker in Europe. I mean, he's not even the best striker in the Liverpool squad. Any talk of him being the best striker in Europe was laughable, I think, even at his best. But he must be embarrassed at what's going on.
It's interesting with Isak, isn't it? It reminds me a bit of when Andy Cole went to Man United, because like he couldn't miss at Newcastle, Cole, and obviously he came good at United, but for a while he wasn't great, and there was this just kind of what's happened here. And like Isak, when he came on, looked like he couldn't really play.
You need a hierarchy in a club where everybody knows what their roles and who is bigger in terms of the stardom ranking. And I think the problem is, and I know this has been said before, but I think it bears repeating, that you have so many players there who think I should be the star. And I look at the fact of losing Núñez and Diaz, and I think too often with those two, people looked more at what they couldn't do rather than what they were doing, because they were giving a lot to the team in terms of dynamic and off the ball. And you see it now when, I mean, Salah's defending for that. It looks more like he's trying to do some sort of rushed ticket inspection on Maro Jr. and then he just gives up. It's bizarre. And I'm seeing also from Liverpool fans saying that, well, does Mo Salah also want to stand up for this team in the media because Virgil van Dijk's done it enough? And Mo Salah never comes out and speaks to anyone unless he wants a new contract or something along those lines. And it does come back to the original point. And you listen to all the voices that we're hearing from Liverpool players. And I mean Andy Robertson as well when he was on Scotland duty. And I think that the grief from Diogo Jota still plays a role in terms of how everybody is suffering with themselves right now and doesn't know how to resolve the situation. No doubt Arne Slot is also making tactical errors here as well in terms of what are the best tactics for his team. But it's difficult, I think, with the media cycle and the way that we work, which is when a game comes, there's an expectation that we need to find a fresh angle on something and a fresh perspective. And when the answer is grief, which is the most unlinear thing of how it affects you, and particularly as a footballer, when you are sitting in a hotel room on your own for so much of the time and you're left to think about things, and yet you cannot say those things in our environment because those are not accepted. It's a really, really complex situation, and yeah, it's a difficult one to explain.
Interesting point made by Stephen Warnock on Match of the Day. When people talk about changing manager, because I think Archie spoke really well to that complicated nature of grief. When you talk about changing manager, which I think is crazy anyway, this early after he's won you the league title last season, but Stephen Warnock was making that point of a new manager is going to walk into that situation of grief, and how complicated would that be if someone who's then got to step into a situation that is not their grief, surrounded by people who are dealing with that grief. Like, I think there's another really important point actually, which the club needs to weigh up and consider if it is. I don't know. We're probably over discussing this change of manager angle, but it has been picked up and mentioned. But I don't think it's on the cards.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I think it's so fascinating what confidence does. And for whatever reason, that confidence has gone. And also, Nicky, I think because football is so ruthless, isn't it? That now you could see PSV could smell blood. Like any team now will go to Anfield and go, like, they're not on it. And there is no, like, reputation counts for zero, basically. And they just went there and picked them off.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part of the Curtis Jones comments that perhaps is true, is that there is no fear factor at Anfield now because of how things have gone. And the crazy thing is that it did feel like a game to me. It certainly seemed like Liverpool had plenty of chances to win the game. Van Dijk hits the bar at 1-1. You get Gakpo with a backheader post from a lovely cross from Szoboszlai at 2-1. There were plenty of chances for Liverpool to score goals in this game.
But over the past 3 games on aggregate, Liverpool's XG has been superior to that of their 3 opponents, but they've lost by an aggregate score of 10-1. So that either means Liverpool aren't as bad as their results suggest, or that XG is just a load of old tosh. It's not for me to say which.
It felt like every time PSV got the ball going forward, they thought, fancy this, we've got a chance here, we're gonna go for it. And I think that is almost the reverse of the Arsenal Bayern game, where both teams played with such an incredible intensity. Liverpool lacked intensity in this game, and it's a really mundane point, but at the highest level of football, that intensity is everything. If you haven't got that, you're not going to compete with teams, even if you're more technically gifted than them. You're not going to be able to beat teams if you're not as intense as they are.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the grief thing, and I do believe it's having an impact. Some people laugh at the notion, and I think that's quite childish or simplistic view to suggest that it isn't having an impact. But I don't think you can lay the blame of people just not doing the basics, running, tackling, tracking back on grief. And for all the fire and brimstone of Curtis Jones's post-match rhetoric, and he's clearly very angry with his teammates, and he did go out of his way to say he included himself in this. Jamie Carragher made the point, like, instead of talking about what you're going to do, just do it. It's like when people announce they're taking a break from social media, and you're going, well, you don't need to announce it, just fuck off. Like, don't post on social media.
Do you know what? I don't know if I agree with you on that. I'm really conscious that we now, because of we think it's really important. Now, whenever we talk about Liverpool, like, this podcast has like a grief section, and I can imagine listeners are like, oh, I don't need to hear this grief section again. But like, if it is affecting you, I think it could affect how you train, your gym work, all those things. And it is, because it's such an elite level, that if you're not quite at it in the gym, then you're not as quick as you were, and you're slightly off the pace, then your touch is slightly off, and then you're not feeling as good as you normally feel on the pitch, and that has an impact. So I think it possibly could.
I'm
but you're
now
right.
beginning to wonder, am I some sort of psychopath? Because people close to me,
finally you've realised,
friends and relatives have died, and I've just got on with things.
Yeah.
Am I a weirdo?
No, but I think that's the exact point. No. But I think that's the exact point, Baz, in that everybody reacts so differently to it, and that everybody is trying to process how everyone else is getting on with it, because then there's no doubt someone in the dressing room who probably feels like you and is like, okay, I'm through this, but this guy is not, because he's a lot closer. And I think that that's probably part of it, in the way that they were all on the same page last season, and then comes a life event like that, which just blows everything apart in terms of everyone's joint perceptions.
And also, like, it's when most individuals go through this, it is not in the intense situation that a football dressing room is, which is just a play. Like we are, and we've sort of said this before, that they're all human beings, and it is true, but they are weird work environments. They're totally different to sort of any other work environment, I think. And so, because you're there, you're sharing these huge like these sort of bonding moments every week. You're embracing, you're doing everything together. You are constantly showering together, and then running together, and then working out together, and then this goal happens, and then you embrace each other together, and then so all those things, I think, create incredibly intense relationships for very short periods of time. Right? They don't all stay friends for the rest of their lives, but. I am conscious that, and it's a conversation I'm sure we'll have again, but I imagine some listeners are like, I just want to hear, why Virgil van Dijk stuck his hand in the air like a volleyball spike.
It's really easy to be like dismissive over the Eredivisie sometimes and goals, because I think especially Premier League fans have seen players come from there and not replicate it in the Premier League. They have scored 41 goals in 13 games in the Eredivisie. They also smashed 6 past Napoli in the Champions League. I mean, that's the other thing that needs to be said. This is not just a Liverpool story; it is a PSV story. They are, as Archie says, wildly entertaining.
to Paris. PSG 5, Spurs 3. And look, what Spurs wanted was a reaction from Sunday and a team that actually attacked. And I think they got that. I don't think Spurs fans think they should go to Paris and beat PSG. And this is the level that Tottenham are at the moment. But I found it I was sort of quite enthused by this game, Barry.
I thought it was a decent performance from Spurs, but they gave away so many soft goals that were totally avoidable. The penalty was completely avoidable. The Pacho goal was avoidable. At least one of the Vitinha goals, after he'd scored the first one, don't let him score the second one. And then obviously he got a penalty, but the penalty shouldn't have been given. And I thought the Fabian Ruiz goal was totally avoidable.
Totally. That was the worst of the lot.
Yeah. So it was a good performance by Spurs, but one marred by really stupid mistakes that allowed PSG to score 4 goals they probably shouldn't have scored. But, players make mistakes, but to make so many bad ones in a game. But otherwise, I thought Spurs were decent enough. They were playing away from home against the European champions. I would imagine there are probably some Spurs fans who think they should be going there and beating them. But this, compared to their performance on Sunday against Arsenal, and it's a low bar, this was head and shoulders above that. But they did still lose.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Vitinha. His first goal is so good. And the Glenn Hoddle on co-coms, absolutely, it's so good, isn't it? When he's like, because to be fair, Spurs had done that first half really, really well. They came out with this formation, which people couldn't work out what it was. It was kind of 4-2-2-2 or like a box, but they had Bergvall and Gray. And Spurs fans love those two players because they're young and they are good. And, Archie Gray had to be centre back for the whole of last season because of all the injuries. And then the Hoddle is saying, well, look, they're just confining PSG to shots from outside the box and they'll be pretty happy with that. Strike the ball. It was literally like, and what a finish it was.
Particularly because it's such a ping. Like
amazing
the way
goal.
that the ping off the crossbar really adds to the effect of it.
But has that, that Thomas Frank likes to, has said, let players shoot from outside the box if they do it because they're so unlikely to score. Back to the XG. It's a low XG, even if it's Vitinha. He's such a good player. I don't know what you thought, Archie. I thought it was a real step in the right direction and Thomas Frank needed it. And maybe my expectations are lower than they should be. But, after Sunday, which was so bad, and also like a run of games, Chelsea game was terrible as well, seeing them actually attack and press and do things that teams should do was a relief.
I think conceding the goals that Spurs did takes away from that. But you can't run down 5 goals where half of them are poor defensive mistakes and go, it's a step in the right direction. Max, you're sounding like Ange.
It's who we are, mate. I can't help it.
What's happened? If anything, the thing that I'm thinking is, from a personal standpoint, is, well, the great force of Spursiness collides with Fulhamish on Saturday. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, we're going to be the team that they turn this round against, aren't we? Aston Villa hadn't won a game this season, but here come Fulham. So, yeah, let's see.
I'll ask you, Nicky, about Christian Romero, because I just, I can't work out if he's either absolutely brilliant or just a bit of a donut, or maybe both, because that mistake, he's sort of, when he makes a mistake as well, he doesn't seem to make any. He's got such a poker face. He doesn't have poker feet, of course. We know that. He launches in, but he does have this kind of blasé or not bothered. He just stays the same. This face, even when he's absolutely messed up.
Yeah, but it's that terrifying character in the movies, and he just stays completely silent, doesn't let you know right before he commits some egregious act of
yeah, you're right.
Of violence, which obviously footballing violence in this case, not suggesting that Christian Romero is, but he is a bit that. He's got such an edge to him as a player, and I think he's a good player, but he does always feel like he's in that not showing it, like you say, with a poker face way. He's just a moment away at any given second. He's a moment away of doing something completely crazy, which is not necessarily a trait you want in a centre back. I don't know. It's such a weird one because you're saying that, Max, and obviously Thomas Frank saying really pleased with the performance. It's just very odd to hear a manager talk about being very pleased with the performance after conceding 5 goals, and not like 5 goals that was like, oh my God, how did we concede 5 goals? 5 goals because you gave a lot of them away. Like it was a weird one. I don't even completely disagree with you because going forward there was lots that was good, but at the same time, I didn't see the Super Cup game. So I'm going off the reports I heard of it, but from everything I understand, Tottenham are very, very close to beating PSG in that Super Cup game. They were 2-0 up, obviously, and by all the reports at the time, they were not undeserving of that 2-0 up. So it doesn't feel like it's necessarily progress if a few months later you're getting this sort of defensive performance in a rematch.
The difference with the Super Cup game is the context, because you'd just come off the back of Ange Ball, and it seemed like defensive organisation. It seemed like pragmatism, and I think that Spurs fans were encouraged at the time by, oh, hang on, this could be a new serious face to the team. Except what's come in the last month has been some really gutless performances, particularly in front of goal, and now, it's a bit different.
And actually, PSG, I think, hadn't trained for like 2 months. So, they played the Club World Cup and then they just sort of came back for a kickabout. But look, Colomboani scored 2. So, look, I have faith. I believe this could be the turning point.
So basically, Tottenham's best player in a game against PSG was a PSG player.
Listen. Yeah, look, when there are only straws to clutch at, Barry, I clutch at them I'm a glass half full guy. I can't help it. Anyway, I hope Xavi Simons' nose is all right after being elbowed completely unnecessarily by Lucas Hernandez. That was a filthy challenge. Right, let's rattle through the others. Olympiacos 3, Real Madrid 4. What's the question for this one, Barry? Kylian Mbappe is good, a 7-minute hat-trick, 4 in total.
Question for this is, did Kylian Mbappe score the fastest hat-trick in Champions League history? No, he didn't. He scored one in 6 minutes 42 seconds. But Mo Salah has a quicker one, apparently. Right. 4-3 to Madrid. Not as close as the scoreline suggests, but a good effort from Olympiacos, nevertheless.
Atleti beat Inter 2-1. Andy says, is it even a Champions League night if it doesn't end with Simeone charging down the touchline? Yeah, what did you make of this one, Nicky?
Yes. It's really hard to figure Inter out at the moment. I continue to think their squad is by far the most talented in Italy, but their record in big games is really bad for a while now. And coming off the really not great defeat to Milan in the derby, they were hoping for a response here, and to then be at least drawing the game away from home to Atletico in the 90th minute and conceding an equaliser at the end feels like it's another ding to the morale and belief that this team is able to get over that issue of just not being able to show up in these big games. They've had four very straightforward games in this group relative to relative to what they've got left. I think their first 4 games, you look at them all, they did win them all, but you think those are games maybe you expect them to win. After this, they get Liverpool, Arsenal and Borussia Dortmund away, so they're not going to not go through to at least the playoffs, but it is tougher from here, and that wasn't great.
Atalanta as well. They won 3-0 in Frankfurt. And I just want to ask about Ademola Lookman, because every time I read about him, he's unhappy. Is he happy? Is he now happy at Atalanta? What's his vibe?
Well, I'm sure everyone at Atalanta's happier after this win, because it's better than what they've had recently, which is a lot of losing, including at the weekend against Napoli. Lookman wanted to leave this summer. He wasn't subtle about it. The club wouldn't let him leave. I think there was a feeling that a gentleman's agreement was broken, that he was going to be allowed to leave this summer. And so he was basically frozen out through pre-season. He didn't train. As a result, he finally got reintegrated, but hadn't trained in pre-season, wasn't great to start this season because he wasn't fit. Maybe wasn't great also because Ivan Juric was the manager, who can say, but Juric is now gone, Palladino's in. I think Palladino is a really interesting young manager who deserves that chance. He did great work at Fiorentina last season, and obviously didn't start with hasn't started perfectly in the league, but to get a win like this in the cup might just be a good thing for Lookman and for Palladino to get the ball rolling a bit.
Elsewhere, Sporting beat Club Brugge 3-0. Copenhagen beat Kairat 3-2. And a 2-2 draw between Paphos and Monaco, including a brilliant header from David Luiz. I don't know, Barry, if you have any strong thoughts on any of those games or not.
Well, Paphos are doing really well for themselves. The Cypriot champions. They currently occupy the 24th and final qualifying spot in the table. They're flying the flag for the little guy, I suppose, this season, or littleish guy. And just Copenhagen, Henrik Larsson's son Jordan won and scored a penalty for them. And I went to have a look to see, what age this teenage son of a great is. He's 28.
Oh no! When they go, and number one when he was born was Brian Adams. Oh God, that's terrible.
28. I'm not. I must have heard of him before and forgotten. But anyway, yes, I think he's 28 and he has 8 caps for Sweden.
I was just going to say a shout out to the 10 Kairat Almaty fans who went to Copenhagen, who were presented on the pitch beforehand and congratulated.
That's great. That is lovely.
Which I thought was lovely.
Yeah, more players than fans is always good. Ben says, is Baz still excited by Arsenal-Chelsea at the weekend? Uber Greenie writes, as he thought your previous similar question was inexplicably beneath him, does Barry think Arsenal's win tonight, as well as Chelsea's win yesterday, sets up their weekend clash nicely? Judging from the conversation we had before the pod, no.
My argument is that what Chelsea and Arsenal do in the Champions League has absolutely zero bearing on what may or may not happen in their Premier League game on Sunday. It's already nicely set up. Whether they win in a different competition in the build-up to the game makes no difference to me. The thing I'd say about this, just an overview on this weekend's Premier League fixtures, it's the most games gone fixture list we've ever seen, I think, because we have an 8 p.m. game on Saturday, which I hate, and then on Sunday, we have a 12 p.m. game, noon game between Crystal Palace and Manchester United. That's costing you and me money, Max, because we've been bumped off the radio.
Correct.
Apparently, Palace v Man U is going to be more entertaining than us. And then you have three fixtures kicking off at not 2 p.m., but 2:05. So, game's gone.
Fine. And you
every time we talk about like 12 o'clock kickoffs, all I can think about is like the crappiest protest that ever happened in Italy when they introduced the early lunchtime kickoffs, and a bunch of Parma fans had the Protesta del Panino, which is the sandwich protest, which is when the game cooked off, they all took out a sandwich and started eating it. That was the protest.
That's really good. That'll show them. We'll eat lunch at lunchtime while we watch the game. I mean, I don't agree with Barry. I think you don't compartmentalise performances across competitions. Of course, Carabao Cup, you might make loads of changes. But like, if you're on a roll, and both these teams are on a roll, and Chelsea beating Barcelona and Arsenal beating Bayern Munich, I think it does add more to this game. But, I'm happy for
you
Archie
are
and Nicky
entitled to your wrong opinion, Max.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to know if the rest of the panel share my wrong opinion. Archie.
I agree with Max.
Thank you so much. Nicky?
The opinion is that it's good having games at different times.
No.
His opinion is that Arsenal beating Bayern Munich and Chelsea beating Barcelona increases the fun and excitement quotient of their match in a completely different competition this weekend.
I like how you phrased that question, Your Honour.
I think
you might as well say, and you're a complete moron if you think otherwise. Nicky?
I think I might be a complete moron. I think I agree with Max. I think it does.
There we are.
If two teams go and win really big European games in the same week, and then they're playing each other, I think that does feel like it's building up towards a climactic clash, doesn't it?
I'll say, what do you say now, Barry? You loner.
Just
Sorry,
because I'm in a
Baz.
minority doesn't mean I'm wrong.
No. You're absolutely right. Liverpool go to West Ham on Sunday. So,
Oof.
wow. I mean, is it the game you want? West Ham are slightly better now, aren't they? So I don't know what game Liverpool want. But...
well, when you're losing, when you're on a horrible losing streak, every game's tricky. And new and improved West Ham away, would it be a massive shock if Liverpool lost? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Do you want a Fulham minute? You've already slightly touched on it, Archie. They go to Tottenham. It is that Saturday 8:00 kickoff. It's an unnecessary time. It's shiny game show time, isn't it? It's not football time. But how do you see Fulham going?
So I think Fulham are struggling without Rodrigo Muniz being out for so long now. He's ruled out until January at least. Also, trying to blood younger new players like Josh King and Kevin is something that we've not done much of before. So that's taking its toll. And I think having overachieved in previous seasons under Marco Silva in the Premier League, this was inevitable that this might happen at some point. Fans are upset about lack of investment. I do think we're a little bit light in central midfield with Berger and Lukic, and there's no real replacement for them. But ultimately, I'm sticking by Barry's prediction of us to finish 12th.
Fine. Rob Edwards' next game is away at Villa, so that doesn't seem easy at all. Crystal Palace Man United is one of the midday kickoff on Sunday. See what Man United do after that home defeat to Everton. Palace are away at Strasbourg this evening. Interesting comments from Ben Chilwell, who's now playing. I don't know if anyone saw these for Strasbourg. He said, "What a story it would be if I went to the World Cup after I was in the Chelsea bomb squad and everyone had counted me out 12 months prior. It would just be the biggest middle finger to so many people, which to me is a motivation. Chelsea were honest with me and there's no resentment, but of course I've got an ego, so it would be a nice feeling to prove some people wrong." I suppose I haven't seen Ben Chilwell play football for so long that I don't.
I would
he
say
do
there
well
is some
to make
resentment.
Yeah, it sounds like. Yeah, and fair enough, right? I think, if anyone was put in a bomb squad, I think you're allowed to resent them, aren't they? Everton, Newcastle, Man City, Leeds, Sunderland, Bournemouth.
I still think Everton are getting away with murder, but their results suggest otherwise. And maybe it's because I predicted they'd be relegated. But they had a great win over Manchester United on Monday. They're 11th, but they're only 4 points off Champions League place, I think. And then Newcastle with their really dreadful away form. I think if Newcastle... Look, I have been predicting for years now, any time Newcastle go on a bad run, that Eddie Howe will come under pressure, but they always seem to dig themselves out of the hole. But I do think he will be under pressure if they lose another away game in the Premier League.
This is the self-immolation derby. How appropriate that after the Michael Keane-Idrissa Gueye incident on Monday, that they should go and face Newcastle. If we were in the US, they'd wheel out Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer before on the pitch with pugil sticks or something like that. Sometimes the fixture list works out well.
We talked about in the box and ideas for Sky. Get those two and get some pugil sticks. I'm in. I did watch all of In the Box, and I actually I hate myself for not hating it. I mean, it was clearly completely ridiculous. One of the worst jobs. Whoever had to edit that is like having to edit Big Brother. It would be an absolute nightmare. But there was part of me that sort of kept on watching. But I did spend a lot of time thinking, how much is Lineker getting for this?
Yeah.
God, why can't I be famous enough to someone to give me 50 grand to put me in an airless room with Michael McIntyre? I would get through it and it would be fine.
I remember someone told me once, and they would have known how much James Corden used to get for presenting A League of Their Own. And I actually felt physically ill.
Well, I want some of that. I want Barry to feel ill by the amount of money I get paid. I'm not motivated by money, but I am a little bit.
Max, I already feel slightly nauseous.
Anyway, full week of championship action this week. Coventry had beat Middlesbrough. It was top two at the time. Middlesbrough now in third. They won 4-2. They scored 2 late on. They're 10 points clear, Frank Lampard's Coventry, which is amazing. It's a long old season, but that is some lead that they have. Sheffield United won last night. Big win. They beat Portsmouth 3-0, moved out of the relegation zone. But this story is extraordinary. Earlier this week, there was a report that United's owners, COH, had supposedly contacted Sheffield Wednesday's administrators to make an inquiry. The club made a statement the day after this report came out, but interestingly didn't deny they'd made inquiries over a potential merger. So we're not totally sure, but is it like local reporters, and there are some Sheffield United fans who don't love their owners, are going, of all the things you could do as the owner of Sheffield United is try and merge with Sheffield Wednesday. It's insane. It's not because they're American owners, they're not very present as far as I understand. But it does seem like a sort of a slight lack of local knowledge. And what do you say? What do you say? Do you say, I'll tell you what, what they say to Sheffield Wednesday is, we'll take the Sheffield from your name and the United from our name. How about that? Complete madness. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on it, but yeah, unbelievable.
Just like you, it's a bit like the Curtis Jones interview we were talking about. I wasn't quite sure, is this real or not? But it sounds like it is. The Curtis Jones interview definitely was real, by the way, as we established. But yeah, I can imagine distant American owners being that ignorant and tone deaf.
What colours would they? Particularly red and blue? God, it's sort of upsetting to even think about it.
We'll take the white stripes from your shirt and the red stripes from our shirt.
Now, the WSL has apologised to Spurs for a remark made by influencer GK Barry. It does sound like a cricketer from the 1940s, doesn't it? GK Barry. During the League Cup draw on Tuesday night. The draw for the quarterfinals and semi-finals were conducted by GK Barry and her partner, the Portsmouth midfielder Ella Rutherford. As Spurs were drawn out, GK Barry shouted, "What do you think of Tottenham?" Everyone knows that chant. She also pulled a ball out of the bag and dropped it in by accident and took it out again, which is funny. I think Bert Millerchip poor old Ted Croker. They'd be furious about this. You wouldn't get this. An adjudicator from the WSL was present at the draw and is satisfied the process was conducted fairly and correctly. And it's on one level, Nicky, it's quite funny. A bit like Rod Stewart doing that draw when he was half cut is funny, but it's also I was chatting to a couple of I heard from Catherine Batt, the journalist, yesterday, and I did a show on TalkSport. Uma Gurav was on there, and she was saying, look, you can have fun with the draw, but if someone comes on and you want to encourage people, right, to the women's game, but GK Barry clearly knows nothing about football, is not taking it seriously at all, and is, sort of the wrong side of the line was the vibe I got certainly from the women's football experts that I've spoken to.
I'd agree with that on it being the wrong side of the line. I have a certain sympathy with GK Barry, who's obviously just been offered this gig,
sure.
and has been told just be yourself. No one has told her not to do that, right? They've just said, oh, go on, just do it, be yourself. It's simple. You're just pulling the balls out of the bags. It's not a lot to worry about. I don't feel like it's her fault. I don't feel like it's also conceptually this terrible, terrible idea if you're trying to expand your audiences into certain demographics to try to get someone to do something that, draws are always a jamboree, right? We've had flipping Donald Trump drew the balls once for a League Cup draw, didn't he?
Whatever happened to him?
Clip draw, anyway. So, so there's been all sorts of nonsense with cup draws in the past, and it's all of it individually I can see, but yeah, it feels like this one, what was really needed is, if you're going to do it, a little bit more actual conversation about taking certain, not seriously to the point of being po-faced, because again, it's supposed to be a jamboree, but I think there's maybe a little bit, not enough was discussed beforehand about actually this does still need to be a professional process.
How is the running going? Barry only agreed to this once he'd started his jogging extravaganza, so it's the new slimline Barry Glendenning.
The new slimline Barry Glendenning has actually put on weight since he started running. That's 3 pounds, so that's disappointing. I think because
Pure
I'm
muscle.
running.
Muscle weighs more than fat, Baz.
No, I think it's because I'm running. I'm now giving myself permission to eat things I wouldn't have eaten before I started running, ice creams and chocolate bars and all that. But, that's not a problem. The running's going fine. Did my first uninterrupted 5K on Monday, 37 minutes, 12 seconds, which under 40. I was happy enough with that. And like Pep Guardiola said last week, now that I can whack out 3 miles without too much trouble. And without wanting to toot my own horn, that is remarkable, because I couldn't run half the length of a football pitch 5 weeks ago. Anyway, the season starts now into proper training. So,
are you going to be going up to a cameraman anytime soon, Barry, and just shouting in his face?
Well, if there's one following me when I'm out running, certainly, yes. And he'll be getting more than a bollocking.
If you just go to Just Giving and write Barry Glendenning, then you can give some more money to Great Ormond Street.
Thank you, by the way, to everyone who's donated. It's absolutely astonishing. I don't know whether it's generosity or just people being bastards putting me under pressure, but whichever. Thank you.
Or could be pity.
Pity. Yeah. I'll take it. Pity money is fine.
All right, that'll do for today. Thanks, everyone.